Hi, I'm Father Sean Cavanaugh. I'm the head priest at St. Stephen's, St. Agnes School. This is my 17th year in my vocation serving this community. And so today, in addition to welcoming our families, our students, our parents, our teachers and staff, I also want to give a special welcome to all of our alumni. No matter if you find yourself locally, nationally, or globally, if you're a graduate of St. Stephen's or a graduate of St. Agnes, if you're a graduate of St. Stephen's and St. Agnes, if you're from the class of 1959 or the class of 2017, it is our connection, it is our rootedness to one another as a community that sustains us in both good times and bad times. And so welcome as we celebrate the birth of this incredible mystery, the mystery of God coming into the world as one of us. In 1927, the English writer and poet T.S. Eliot wrote a short poem entitled The Journey of the Magi, and in it, Eliot imagines himself as one of the wise men, as one of the Magi, taking the perilous journey to go visit Jesus and to be there for his birth. And what's unique about the poem is Eliot does not romanticize what that journey may have been like. And what we find in the poem is Eliot as a magi worrying about the camels that he's traveling with, worrying that they may not be able to make the journey. He's worried about the company that he's traveled with. He's worried about their complaining, and he's wondering, are they ever going to really be able to make it to Bethlehem? But I think perhaps the most important part of the poem is that Eliot as a magi, Eliot as a wise man traveling, is most concerned about what happens when he encounters God. What happens when that encounter changes him? Will he ever be able to return back to his old life? What happens when that encounter demands from him a new way of being? And so for Eliot, then, the journey that took him to the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem was a journey wrought with difficulty, with pain, and unpredictability. And I think this poem is so important for us right now, as our own journey these past 10 months has also taken us through some very, very difficult moments. This disease has caused social isolation. It's caused fear of sickness. It's caused us, I think, as human beings to grow anxious at times, to grow depressed, to wonder when this journey was going to end, and to reveal some type of hope, to reveal our old lives again, or at least what new lives might be. And what's interesting about Eliot's poem, and I think it's so very true, is that Eliot was convinced that the journey he was on was probably going to change him, and I have no doubt that these last 10 months have changed us as well. But Eliot is also clear that the encounter with the birth of Jesus is going to be an encounter that will change him for the better. And I think Eliot's poem is, and has been since he wrote it, a gift to all of us, a gift in that it is a very realistic look at the life of faith. And so in this moment, as we prepare to celebrate the birth of Jesus, we recall the moment and the months that have brought us here. And we also know that we enter into this birth with all of our brokenness, with all the parts of us that are not whole. And yet, the encounter with God is always an encounter of renewal. That the great gift of the birth of Jesus coming into the world is the great promise of the Spirit. A promise that says to us, no matter where you've been, no matter where you are going, you do not go alone. And that what God always offers us as human beings is a respite and a chance at a new way of being. God comes into our lives not as someone afraid, but as someone who recreates the Spirit. I'll end with a story. Several weeks ago, our medical team sent out an email asking for volunteers to help with some of the COVID testing that was happening within the school community. I, as well as many others, volunteered to help. And so one afternoon, I found myself at the lower school surrounded by first and second graders. And yet, I was there not just as a priest, but as someone who was there helping with this very important and sobering test. And so I put on my gloves, I put on my mask, and I put on my gown, and my job was to help with the part of the testing where a solution was placed on a small plastic medical apparatus to determine whether or not one of the children was negative or positive for COVID. It was one of the more incredible moments and one of the most humbling moments of my time as a priest. But more than anything else, I was so buoyed. I was so encouraged by the strength of these children. These were children who, unlike any generation before them, were being asked to sit down, to take off their masks, to have one of our incredible nurses swab their noses and wait patiently for results. And what I was reminded of in that moment, in this moment of these children taking these tests, I was reminded not only of our brokenness of as a culture, of this great moment of difficulty, but I was also reminded of the great ability of the human spirit to overcome anything. And these children not only were courageous, but as soon as they took that test, they jumped up, got a sticker, and went back to living their lives. This was a holy encounter for me. And it was a moment for me that I will remember this Christmas season. A moment in which these children led the way for me. A moment in which these children taught me or reminded me that there's always chance for a renewal, always chance for hope. That we go through the difficult times, that we go through the sobering times, but then we jump out of our chairs, we bounce up, we look for the next sticker in life, and we keep going. So in this incredible season, the season in which we celebrate the birth of Jesus, a season unlike any that we have experienced, we are reminded of the renewal of God in our lives, and we are reminded that the gift of this child is the gift of life. And it's the promise. It's a promise that no matter how difficult things get, no matter what your suffering is, no matter what your brokenness is, God is with us. Amen.